Well, it's true. Like, Boy said he just shared with his teammates. Rock, paper, scissors, otherwise, which clears fun. He hasn't come with me yet. It's like, it's like funny. It's like literally 200 words about your goodness. Friday. Okay, he did say he got some money, but he was like, I don't know. So he did get some money. That's what he said. Well, I said I'm not sure if you say or yeah. I just didn't know if he wanted to. Yeah. Yeah.
Which one do you want to be?
Whatever you want.
We can't see Marvin. It's too far away from us.
He's the head coach now.
Have a seat, Bernie. Right here. You got front row. I mean, do you look tired?
No, I was gonna say, I just have to see.
Oh, no. No, I mean, good. We'll start with you once we have a few opening remarks. All right, we will begin, and it's great to have our panel here to talk college hockey. Jeff Schulman, I think, as everybody knows, is the chair of Division I Men's Ice Hockey Committee. He also, at one time, was the chair of the Division I Women's Ice Hockey, so he's got a broad perspective, and also the athletic director at the University of Vermont. Next to him is Mike Snee, the executive director of College Hockey, Inc., and on the end is the head coach of the UMD Bulldogs and also a member of the Division I Men's Ice Hockey, Scott Sandlin. So I think, Schulz, as we start, maybe just some opening thoughts on Tampa, how this tournament has come to life, where we're at, and maybe a little bit about the tournament as a whole, starting with the regionals.
Sure. Thanks, Fish. And first of all, thank you all for being here. Hockey media is obviously a dedicated group, and no, it's not simple to get down to Tampa to cover this event, but you're a big part of what makes this special, so thank you. As a committee, we couldn't be happier with the way things have gone, with the tournament in general this year, culminating here in Tampa. And I think several of you, I'm sure, have been here for the other Frozen Fours that have happened and know that this city and Rob Higgins from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission, they do it as well as anybody. Incredibly professional and really committed to this event, and it shows in everything that they do. So a big thanks to Rob and his team and the folks here at Amalie and Vinnick Sports Group, Steve Griggs from the Lightning. One of the things, we had a meeting earlier today with the future hosts, and one of the points that we emphasized to them is just how important it is to have the NHL franchise, the host franchise, committed to the event. And it, Tampa, the Lightning, certainly meet that, our expectation, and exceed it. So it's been great. The regionals were really well attended this year. Obviously had some lopsided results in the first round, but really good regional finals and great crowds at the 4 sites. So we feel like the hockey tournament is as healthy as it's ever been, and this weekend's obviously a great celebration of that. So
I guess, Coach Sandlin, if we can maybe just pick up with that, with you, obviously, you've been around a long time, seeing how things have progressed and changed over the course of your time as a player and career relative to this event and just college hockey in general. Could you maybe just share some thoughts and reflect on kind of where it was when you started and where we're at today? I mean, we don't have a time for year by year, but
Go back to the total goals.
yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there wasn't the week off for sure. I think the first one back in '84, we played out in RPI, total goals series, and then stayed out there and just went to Lake Placid. You know, now it's obviously different. We've gone through times when there was 12 teams. You know, the top seeds got a bye. You only had to win 1 game to get in. We've grown to 16. We weren't in NHL venues as of 2000. It was my last year at North Dakota, and now we're in buildings, the NHL venues, these types of cities, and it's phenomenal. And I can tell you, it's not a lot of fun watching. You know, we've been a pretty fortunate program, but it's amazing the work, and I'm excited to be on the committee for the next 4 years. Just hopefully learning a little bit more about what goes into this and hopefully helping. But it's awesome. It's awesome for the athletes and just the commitment level to continue to make these better. I'm really anxious to see what Vegas brings down the road. So, but just some great cities that we're able to play in. So, and this has been awesome to be in Tampa.
I think most of you heard last night, 19,119 yesterday for the semifinals, which was only the 5th time that we've had 19,000 plus. So fun to see that growth. And as Schultz mentioned, the great job the Tampa Sports Commission has done, and Emily Arena in Wisconsin as hosts. Maybe we switch before we get to the questions over to you, Mike. Coach Sandlin mentioned growth from number of teams in the tournament, and I know one of your central focuses is helping college hockey grow. Can you maybe give us some update on kind of where we're at there and where you see the future?
Yeah, well, and before talking about growth, I mean, our job is to grow but also promote what we currently have, and you hear what Jeff talked about, what Sandy talked about, and you know, we the 3 of us at College Hockey Inc., Sean Hogan, Jason Hajdu, and myself, we have a pretty easy job because we're given such a good product to promote. We don't have to look hard to find really cool stories to share on a daily basis, and that leads into growth. I think people see events like this weekend. They see every weekend on campus what's happening. They see what happens at the schools that have added hockey. And through our great partnership with the National Hockey League and the National Hockey League Players Association, Kevin Westgarth is actually here from the National Hockey League. They continue to fund feasibility studies for any school that wants to consider adding men's and or women's hockey. We always approach it as both, and some do one or the other, but we're up to 13 feasibility studies completed now. In the past decade, Penn State really inspired, I think, us to do that, to look into being aggressive and being assertive and trying to find schools to add hockey, and then from Arizona State, and then Lindenwood and St. Thomas, unique story there and what they did with their women's and men's program. And then this coming fall, we'll have Augustana joining the Division I family on the men's side, opening a brand new building and bringing Division I hockey to South Dakota. We do have a few other feasibility studies in progress at 3 separate schools. All 3 schools want to remain confidential for now. But I think this is going to be a pretty exciting year between those studies and then a couple of other schools that we did studies for a while ago that are still trying to make it happen, but I'd say it's leaning towards the side of it actually happening at Binghamton and Utica. So continues to grow, and that's a bit counter to, I think, what's happening in college, Division I college athletics in general. So it's exciting that people see what's going on in Division I college hockey, and some schools want to be a part of it. So
those 3 feasibility studies, who Who was involved in those? What did you say?
We can actually throw it out there, and I read my body language if they guess correctly. But
Oh,
We can play this game.
you want to do it? I mean, we do it on the internet all the time. So, right? Whenever there's a cool club jersey released from some school that, or on April 1st last week.
Use the eye emoji. Like.
Yeah.
all right. We'll use the mics. We'll start with you, Bernie, right here in front. First question.
Bernie Corbin, hockey on campus. NIL is obviously new to college sports. Anybody can jump in on this, I guess. Where do you see it going in terms of the impact to college hockey? I think there's already people looking at the haves, the land-grant universities, and the discrepancy that might occur.
Schultz? I know. Right out of the gate. Bernie, you're not fooling around.
Remind me again, what is NIL?
Name, please. Image, please.
It's obviously something that's top of mind for anybody involved in college athletics these days. But it's not clear yet how it's going to really play out in various sports. And we're still working through it on all of our campuses. And there's no question that the Power 5 schools, given the dynamics around football and basketball in particular, have had to take that head on a little bit sooner than some of the rest of us. But one of the realities of college hockey is there's always been pretty massive discrepancies in terms of resources and facilities, and it hasn't had a dramatic effect on the overall competitive balance. You see it this weekend, even a school like Quinnipiac going head-to-head with Minnesota and Michigan in a Power 5 conference. If you compare the overall budgets of the athletic departments, for sure, it's dramatically different. So I still, NIL is going to evolve over time. I'm sure you all are following what's happening at the congressional level. How that plays out is unclear. But I still have a lot of confidence in the sport of ice hockey and being able to maintain a really strong competitive balance. And it's such a unique college sport that you can have Division III schools, Division II schools, Power 5 schools all competing on a relatively level playing field, and that's one of the magical things about our sport.
Coach Sandlin, how is it affected, if at all, from your perspective in coaching and recruiting?
Well, I like Bob's comment the other day that they got burritos. Actually, we're Qdoba, so but really, I'll be honest with you, it hasn't had that major of an effect. Obviously, it's becoming more and more prominent. Kids are more and more aware of it, but I think, like Jeff alluded to, hockey's a unique sport. We're a little bit different that way. Is it going to creep in? Yes. Is it going to get bigger? Probably. But for us, I haven't seen it be a major factor like it has been in the other sports. So hopefully we can keep it that way. But we know the world keeps changing, and certainly there's got to be ways to navigate through that, and hopefully we'll find those ways.
Mike, you do a lot of education of young kids that are prospective college students. Has that been a topic within your realm, NIL, from parents? I know it's relatively new, but
Not as much as one might think. I think partly because of its role in hockey. We're not talking to the future quarterback of Alabama, so it's less of a consideration. And when it comes up, it's certainly come up as a positive in the conversations that we have. We're not trying to figure out how to regulate it, so it's less of a headache for us. But I do want to add on to what both Sandy and Jeff said, in that we're really in the golden era, I think, right now of men's college hockey parity. If you go back and look from when Maine won, and I think it was '93 when they won their first one, until you won Duluth's first one, every winner from '93 to 2011 was not a first-time winner. It was the schools that pop into your head. Mm-hmm. From 2011 until UMass won, I think we had 6 or 7 first-time winners in that run, plus a lot of schools like Quinnipiac creating such a wonderful program in the past 10 years. So I know that there's we don't know what the future holds and what these impacts might be, but as long as I've been paying attention, that's been a constant story. And it just hasn't played itself out. And not only has it not played itself out, it also it's gone the opposite way, where never has it been better to be a program like a Quinnipiac. So, and that's part of what we use when we talk with schools like Augustana, that you can make a significant national impact in the sport of hockey. And I still believe that you know that opportunity will continue.
Okay, Josephina?
Introduce ourselves, or?
Yeah, please.
Oh, Josephina Shaw, College Hockey News. I'm going to open up the can of worms here, but because you all talked about parity, it doesn't look like it's going to stay that way with the transfer portal. And I know there are a lot of concerns about the divide widening between the haves and have-nots, because it's easy for players to, and I'm not saying anything bad about the players or the schools, but if you're having a good year, you can transfer to a school like Minnesota. And I know that there's concern there, so I don't know if there's anything you can comment on that.
Coach Sandelin.
What part of the portal do you want to talk about? Is this a two-part question? Like, is this, are you talking about the haves and have-nots, or are we talking about the portal?
I'm mostly thinking about it in terms of the impact it'll make in widening, because there is a lot of parity right now, but I think the concern is it'll widen the gap between the bigger name schools like Minnesota and.
Well, we're 2 years into the current format, right? We've got probably 2 more years of fifth years, right? So we'll see where that goes. That number could shrink. Certainly, are there benefits? Yes. Me personally, I don't like the messaging. The messaging it sends that you can just leave. That's all I'm going to say, for me. Can we benefit from it? Yes, just like everybody else, but the messaging to me is wrong. And that's where I'll leave that.
Jeff, anything relative to portal? I mean, you have hockey and many other sports. Anything come to mind in that topic,
Yeah.
where you see things going? Or
I mean, I'm not quite in the weeds of it like, Sandy or our coaches. It's still early days for a sport like hockey. And one of the things to remember is that, there's always been a one-time transfer exemption in every other sport except for 5. And now it's new in these 5 sports, and men's ice hockey is obviously one of them. But I don't know, it didn't necessarily, in those other sports, it didn't play out in the way that you're sort of describing now. It's new in hockey. It's new for these students to have this opportunity, and maybe they're taking advantage of it more now than they will be over time. But I think it does put a lot of pressure on coaches to make sure they're providing their students with a really positive experience. And, and that doesn't mean easy. It doesn't mean not challenging or pushing them. But it's changing the dynamics for sure. I'm not a believer that it's necessarily going to totally upset the competitive balance of hockey in the long run. It may in the next year or two play out in a way that evolves over time.
okay, all right.
She wants a follow-up.
Oh, follow up. Oh, we use the mic, please. We are recording this. Thank
She
you.
did ask.
Josephina Shaw, College Hockey News. So I guess, Scott, kind of going back to what you said, is there my God, what's the word? Like a compromise, I guess, between having something like a transfer portal and having what we had before?
Probably not. I think sometimes you go down some roads that are very hard to go back on to where you were. I think everyone's hoping that maybe it slows down a little bit with the COVID years out, and that's what I said before. You got a couple more years of that, and but I mean, I will say, you look at programs like Augustana or the new programs where, like Penn State came in, they didn't have this. They had to have kids sit here, right? And they're building a program. I think those are benefits, because you can balance classes, you can get some pretty good players and get better quicker than maybe the old way where you had to have guys sit and play. Obviously, they were club teams, so so there are some benefits, right? And I think I'm not going to sit here and say there aren't benefits to any program. It's just, again, I just think it's the messaging, fighting through a little bit of adversity, not just having those opportunities to just jump ship. And again, everybody's going to pick their own path as a program, and we're going to do what we need to do, and programs are going to do what you need to do to navigate it, and so I know what our path is going to try and be, and hopefully it works.
Okay, Mike,
Kind of following up on that for anybody.
could you introduce yourself?
Sorry, Mike McMahon, College Hockey News. I'll preface this by saying I know the youth hockey experience is different in different states. Like, it's much different in Minnesota than it is in New England. Is it having I have a son that's going through it right now, and he's 13 years old, and there was a kid on his team this year who was on his 5th team in 5 years. Does the bouncing around, does that, do you think that starts almost at the younger levels, whether it's AAA or wherever, and then it kind of just carries into a player's mindset now where, you know, like you said, sometimes there may be some adversity in front of you, and it's easy to jump somewhere else?
Where are the parents in this, right? Values, integrity, right? I mean, commitment. To me, when you talk about a 13-year-old, better start there. So I don't think that changes.
Mike, anything to add on that?
I agree with what Mike said. I think we experienced that. The players that we talk to often are in that 15 and 16-year-old range. So, and we do research before we talk with some of these families, and you will see that played on 4 different teams in 4 different years, sometimes in different cities, and so that young person, when he or she arrives at their college, they might have different expectations than maybe they did back when Scott was playing, or even when somebody was playing 10 years ago. We do a lot of research. Sean and Jason do a ton of research, and we haven't done research on that, but anecdotally, it looks to be that, you know, you've been a free agent after every year of your hockey, and you probably can say this about any youth sport. So they come into college with that being how they think.
Okay, over here on the right.
Joey Johnston from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Guys, it was 2005 when Tampa first started to pursue this event, and at the time it was considered a long shot, and there were a lot of skeptics. Obviously, it's the 3rd time, and it's going very well in a non-traditional market, quote unquote. Do you think that has helped grow the base of your sport? By that I mean you have loyal people that travel to this every year, but you're exposing it to some people here that have never seen it before. And do you think that's helping to grow the base of college hockey overall by having it in places like this?
Schultz?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting harder and harder to call Tampa a non-traditional hockey market, you know, just given the interest and passion, particularly around the Lightning and the success of the Frozen Four here. But there's no question that those of us who love this sport want to see it grow and spread the interest around the country and beyond even. And so having such a successful event here, and again, you know, just can't say enough about the Tampa Bay Sports Commission and the work that you all do to make this such a special event. If I had $1 for everybody this last week who said this needs to be a regular part of the circuit, and it sort of has become that. It's the 3rd time in 11 years that we've been here for Frozen Four. So it's great to move this event around to communities and cities that have great facilities and are passionate about it, and it's good for the game in multiple ways.
Sandy, could you imagine when you were a kid that we'd be here with the Frozen Four? I mean,
No. And I was here in 12, and obviously to see it grow even in the community has been awesome. You know, over the last, 12, 16, obviously I had North Dakota win, so I know they drank a lot of beer here. But and just to see it now too, and I know I've been in Bob's press conferences, and obviously we live in Minnesota, so I think it was a tough winter, so people were happy to get down here too. But it's helped a lot, and I think Jeff alluded to it just with the success of the Lightning, and just hockey's really taken off here, and having it here is certainly a good thing for our game.
RK in the front here.
Ryan Kennedy with the Hockey News. The NHL draft is in Nashville this summer. We've heard of Tennessee State's interest in going D1. Mm-hmm. What would it mean for college hockey to have an HBCU go Division I?
It would mean not just a lot for college hockey. It would mean a lot for the sport of hockey. Even there's 109 HBCUs in the United States, and not one of them has club hockey. And when we've researched this, to the best of our knowledge, maybe there's something we've missed. There isn't any intramural hockey. There isn't any kind of hockey at any of these schools. So it's how should I say it? I'll tease them with it, right, Kevin? We're working with the NHL to expand what College Hockey Inc. does, and part of that would be to be even more deliberate with the 109 HBCUs to find, even if it's club hockey, not NCAA hockey, but just club hockey. Because if we just can get hockey there, that's a great thing, and then we have something that we can try to continue to elevate. So whether or not Tennessee State happens, it's a project we're still working on. There's a lot to do there. There's not a suitable facility, so there's a lot of money that would need to be raised, but it's worth pursuing. And man, it would be, if we could find 4 HBCUs to just even offer club hockey and have a HBCU bean pot every year, that type of thing. I think the topic you brought up is a great one, and we're working on it, and we hope that we're going to be able to work on it even more in the future.
Julie and then Todd.
Julie Robenheimer, NHL Network Radio. Gentlemen, can you speak to where the conversation stands on the possibility of expanding the tournament to 20 teams, possibly having a play-in game, giving a first seed bye, whatever the case may be?
Schultz?
Yeah, it's not a conversation that's happening at the levels to make anything imminent. I think a lot of us feel like there's very good hockey teams that could have been in this tournament and had success in it that obviously can't be with a 16-team field. Even with a 20-team field, we'd probably say the same thing. So I don't think it's something that the college hockey community should be holding its breath about. I know you hear about some expansion in some of the other NCAA sports, but it's not top of mind right now.
Okay, Todd?
Todd Molosky with U.S. College Hockey Online. Broad topic here, so I apologize for it, but I know there's a lot of talk about what the future of college sports looks like down 10, 20 years down the road. In that discussion, is it easier to bring new teams into college hockey now than it was before, or is it getting harder in some ways, not knowing what the next 10 to 20 years is going to look like for some of these schools who may have increased challenges because of that uncertainty?
Mike?
It's probably more of a case-by-case scenario. I think it's always a challenge to bring in, and it's a challenge to bring in this sport when it's so facility-driven. And if you don't have a facility, it's not just restriping a field or something similar to that. And that's part of our strategy, is to find places that either have a facility or have access to an appropriate facility. And that was the crux behind Lindenwood adding their men's team. They had already had women's Division I hockey. So we're picking our spots where we feel we have a better opportunity. You brought up the TSU situation. A big part of that is the Nashville Predators and the leadership they take in that, and their willingness to be part of that a project as well. So hard to answer that question in a broad way, but I would say it's never been what I would consider easy to pursue adding a sport, especially a sport like hockey. And in this project that we work on with the NHL, we hear no almost all the time. Almost all the time. I mean, to the point where I could just tell you the yeses right now, and then every other one is no. So it's depends on how you define success, but I think we're looking at it like little bits. Just keep moving forward, keep pushing it, and then check back in 25 years and see what happened.
Jules, where are we at on future sites? I know we got the next 3 Frozen Fours set. What's coming?
Yeah, so we, as folks probably know, we're in St. Paul next year, St. Louis after that, which is haven't been in St. Louis since 2007, and then as Scotty's already thinking about now in Vegas in 3 years, but he's starting to pack his bags today.
He's not alone.
No, I think we're well positioned now for the next 3 years, but we're actually starting the process this summer. We'll be reaching out to prospective hosts for the next 4-year bid cycle, culminating probably with an announcement. I'm going to be a little careful, but I think it would be a year from this fall probably that we would make announcements about future sites.
Josh Fina.
Josh Venashaw, College Hockey News. I'm going to switch gears and do a complete 180. I kind of asked this last year, and I'm just following up about it. Because of everything that happened at the regional sites, like with Albany specifically, I know at the time there weren't really site inspections done for regionals. And I guess Albany is kind of like a outlier because they don't really host hockey anymore. But is there any consideration to doing that just to make sure that all the regional sites are functioning and you don't kind of run into the issues that they had last year?
Jules?
Yeah, obviously, it's important that the facilities that we go to for all rounds of this tournament, and not just Frozen Four, are of a high quality. This should be the pinnacle of our seasons and a great experience for our student athletes. And we've obviously chosen to focus on neutrality for the most part, although you all know that there can be situations where a school is assigned to if they're hosting, even if it's not in their campus facility. But we talk a lot about quality of facilities as a committee, and it's something that's a real point of emphasis for us. And we do make sure that we're very familiar with the regional sites. And something can still happen, of course, but it's an important factor for us.
All right, I think, Todd. Okay, go ahead, Todd.
Just Todd Malosky at U.S. College Hockey Online. Two-parter here. Just wondering how coordination works between NCAA and NHL in some respects, because tonight, no NHL games on the schedule would have been a great night for college hockey to have a spotlight. I know it's never happened where Friday night has been a championship night, but do those kind of things come into play at all in terms of how scheduling works? And I wonder what we've talked about in the past, that there's been a possibility of a Saturday, Monday move for the Frozen Four. It was discussed at one point. Anything happening there, or is that off the table now?
Jules?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on Thursday, Saturday for as long as I remember, and that's dictated by a lot of different factors. ESPN being one of them right now is our broadcast partner, the facilities, and so there's definitely coordination with regard to the host team not being on site. But in terms of working with the NHL to open up a window so that the NCAA championship game can be held, I'm not familiar with those conversations. I mean, it's an interesting point and something I think to consider. We obviously want this there to be as much attention as possible on the championship game, but there haven't been conversations with the NHL around that. But are you familiar with that?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I didn't realize there's no NHL games tonight. Any reason for that, or is it just maybe Kevin's? Sorry to put you on the spot back there.
Worked out well. Julie.
Julie Robenheimer, NHL Network Radio. Just a question about the conferences having so many independent teams right now, with the breakup of the WCHA and obviously having new teams in the mix. What's the conversation, that you guys have heard around those, and then the possibility of some of the other conferences? Like we hear all the time that they may break up, they're too big. What have you guys heard on that front?
Who was that for? And I don't even know who wants to take it.
Maybe.
I'll defer to the commissioners in the room.
Yeah.
Are there any?
There were before you asked the question.
I'll say I think that change is constant. We've never arrived and we never will arrive at where this is it forever type of thing. And you're right, this is, without having fact checked, maybe Jason, you know this, but it feels like this is the most independent teams we've ever had in men's hockey ever, which makes it easier for those independents to succeed, because then they can have scheduling and late season scheduling and so on. But and then if the schools that we mentioned, Utica and Binghamton, come on board, that adds two more to it, and they're in the same areas. So I certainly don't know what the outcomes will be, but it seems when you have kind of a significant number of independents that could become a conference right there. And then maybe that, I don't know, maybe that's some sort of domino that affects the other conferences, who knows? But I don't feel like I'm in a position where I can really confidently answer that. Yeah.
I will say, just to add that probably more than any sport that I'm familiar with, there's a sense of responsibility that we all feel in college hockey to support programs that have it, and it may not be bringing them into our conference right away, but at least trying to schedule games and support teams that are committed to it and want to make a go of it. So
The first two teams that Lindenwood played were Minnesota and Michigan. They gave them games right out, and Lindenwood in turn gave them a heck of a game, both schools. So it's impressive, like Jeff said, what I think college hockey does to take care of schools that want to play the sport.
Okay, Josh Fina.
Josh Fina, Shaw College Hockey News. Since we're talking about independent schools, how great is it that our Alaska schools have survived and almost made the NCAA tournament as an independent?
All right, Coach Sandlin.
I thought it was great. We played Fairbanks 2 years ago and had a great series with them. Eric's done an unbelievable job up there. I mean, obviously, if Colgate doesn't win, they're in, right? And it's tough to take, but great year. And obviously, with Anchorage coming back on board, used to love that trip. I'm going to lie. It was always a fun trip, so it's great to see them, getting through that year and getting started again. Again, for me, the more teams we can add and keep afloat, we got to keep growing this. Not go the other way like we did, how many, 10, 15 years ago, where we lost teams. So it's great.
I'd like to conclude. I know our panelists wanted to each make a prediction on the national championship game tomorrow, so Jules, we'll start with you. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Puck will be dropped at 8:02.
8:04.
Like I said, 8:04.
Oh,
All right. I'd like to thank Jeff, Mike, Scott for being
Fish
here
and I had
today.
one thing.
Mike Snee wanted to,
I do,
including
yeah.
right.
We talk so much about the hockey with these student athletes, and the student comes first, and the graduation rate again for men's players this year is 92%. It's number one of all NCAA Division I men's sports. Women's at 98%. So all of these good things, and for our organization, trying to excite young people and their parents about being college hockey players, and so much of it. And shame on us, because if you go to our website, it's a lot of hockey and not a lot of academics, but the academic piece can't be overlooked. So we're trying to be, College Hockey Inc.'s trying to be a little more committed to making sure that if we're ever given a mic, we talk about how good the academic aspect of college hockey is.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up, for sure. Sparkman Wharf, 4:45. The proceedings begin this afternoon with the top awards in college hockey, concluding at 6 with Hobie Baker. We look forward to seeing you there, and thanks very much for being here.
Is it just literally outside? Yes.
Outside. Make sure you lather appropriately.
That's why I'm wearing this.
It's better than outside at home.